It's me. Hello. Yes. Thank you over there. This is an interesting setup for my first gig back after lockdown. But I've probably done Edinburgh shows with less people in the room, so it's probably going to be all right. It's lovely to be anywhere really at the moment, isn't it? So hello. Yes, and it's particularly enjoyable to be here in the library amongst real books, real things. I love real things rather than just reading things on all your gadgets. Everyone's always reaching for their iPods and iPads out of their eye bags with their eye hands, aren't they? Because we're all turning into robots. I don't know if you know this, because humans, we're going to be obsolete. It's made me worried about the future. It makes me want to embrace some of the old stuff. So, for example, a while ago when I was on the train, the woman next to me got out her Kindle. I got out my Bayer tapestry. Unravelled it. It's quite a boring one, actually. I haven't got to the bit yet where he gets the arrow in the eye. Hope you're not reading the same Bayer tapestry as me, Crystal Palace, because that's a bit of a spoiler. But talking about books, I am probably over the last 3 years or so best known perhaps for being the author of this book, Is Monogamy Dead? Yes, which was inspired when I heard in many surveys around 50% of people confess to cheating. So I thought, if you are in a monogamous relationship and you're not cheating, better look closely at your partner. Because simple maths says it has got to be them. But during lockdown, of course, it has been hard to have an affair. Not that I've been looking happily monogamous now. Hello, girlfriend. But I've been studying the body language between people who are together for many years for my shows about the psychology of love and attraction. I particularly love watching, those couples where you see one of them is taller than the other. I find myself fascinated thinking, how did they get together? Did their eyes meet across a seesaw? And height difference is quite scientifically interesting. I don't know if you know this, because men often go for a woman who's shorter. Women go for a man who's taller. Evens out in heterosexual relationships. But did you know, in the gay world, these desires carry over. So it's quite hard for a short lesbian like me to catch life of a taller lesbian, because she's looking for a taller lesbian in that, and it carries on and on in an endless spiral. And in some ways, it's quite good when two gay people can't actually create a baby together, because think about it, runaway evolutionary theory would mean that lesbians would evolve and get taller and taller and taller and taller, and gay men would get shorter and shorter and shorter until we couldn't possibly all coexist in the same society, could we? It would be ridiculous. People would be like, oh, the lesbians are coming, run away. They're going to crush us with their giant Dr. Martin boots. Pick up that little teeny tiny gay man. He can't run very fast with those tiny legs. But I haven't always been open about being gay. I mean, everyone's a bit gay now, aren't they? And frankly, it's been ruined. But when I came out to my parents years ago, I did it on April Fool's Day, because I thought I'd have a good get out if they didn't like it. But it turns out they did. They were excited and were like, oh, our daughter's done something interesting. And I was the one who was all inhibited, didn't want everyone knowing, but they started going around telling all the neighbours, handing out flyers, printing up T-shirts, trying to get us all on Kilroy. My mum tried to tell me something about her and her friend Joan on holiday, which I didn't want to hear. It was disgusting. But I think Crystal Palace Festival could do with, I've been watching some of it online, and I've been thinking what it's missing is a tale about a lesbian sauna. Do you think? So, yes, absolutely. So I'm going to read you a section from my book about my trip to the lesbian sauna. Yes. Oh, man, are you excited? Well, here we go. I'd been too much of a monogamous prude to realise, but lesbians are sometimes allowed to have casual sex, once every 2 months apparently, because that's how frequently the Locker Room, a gay sauna just off South London's leafy and affluent Cleaver Square, is hijacked by the women. Now that I was writing a show on sex and virility, I could visit under the comforting guise of research. I'd been told tales of wild excess about what went on there behind the clouds of steam and sweat by gay male friends. Would women behave with similar animalistic abandon? I heard about the sporadic women's event through my friend Belle, who described herself as solo poly and explained this as engaging in multiple, ethically non-exclusive relationships while abandoning the hierarchical structure of a primary relationship. Although she cared very much for her lovers and friends, her key commitment was to herself and her own path. To remind herself of this, she wore a single wedding ring around her neck on a chain. She'd effectively married herself. Belle and I agreed not to cramp one another's style. I would leave her to her own devices or vices, yet if I was in any way uncomfortable, I was to go and discreetly belch in her ear. It was the most ridiculous safe word ever. I wasn't even sure I could belch on demand, yet she had once heard of a friend and his wife using it as a code, and the idea had tickled her enough to copy it. An amiable, bespectacled butch who seemed to be in charge proposed an icebreaker game in the cramped bar upstairs. Even though most of us were still clothed and sipping milky tea from polystyrene cups, there was a giggly frisson, the airless space rich with pheromones. The butch clapped her hands like a PE mistress rounding up her girls and explained, we must speak to the person next to us. Then when she rang a little bell, switch our attention to somebody else. I inquired if the bell system would be employed later on. This got a big laugh. I could have happily gone home then. But then, a slender-toned woman a few years my senior strutted over. I'm Helen, she purred, fluttering eyelashes thick with mascara, browny grey and curls cascading round long earrings, droplets of silver pointing down to her glistening neck and chest. Rosie, I said, instinctively offering a handshake, a formal and robust greeting to legitimise what might follow. What do you want to do tonight? Oh, God. I hadn't prepared for this question. I thought to myself, I wouldn't mind an intelligent discussion on Britain's role in the European Union. Instead, I gulped. I looked over at Belle and wondered if I could employ our code this early into the evening. A fear gripped me I hadn't felt since I was a teenager, and Mum's friend Monica had asked me what I wanted to do when I grew up. How can you answer? How does anyone know? This was the same. If I say spanking just for the hell of it, she might say, I'm into that, let's go. I might have to go through with it just out of politeness. Fortunately, the bell rang. A pretty Asian femme, barely half my age, whirled around to catch my eye, long painted fingernails giving her sexual tourism away. You look like a film star, she proclaimed. Thanks, I said. Which one? I don't know, she laughed. This was immediately more comfortable to me than the first situation with Helen. This girl clearly had no idea what she was doing, which meant I wouldn't be exposed as not knowing what I was doing either. Once we descended to the steamy, dimly lit basement, a blonde woman started nonchalantly flickering through a magazine. A strange mix of aloof and slutty, she pulled down her bikini top to rest under her breasts. Then, in a moment of OCD, started folding towels and tidying. This was hardly the hedonistic gangbang I'd anticipated. I imagined reporting back to my friend Don, the one person I told where I was, in case I died, and somebody had to be notified. What happened, he'd say expectantly. Nothing, I'd say. But then the Asian girl leaned forward from the bench above and whispered, let's do something. Silently, I took her hand and led her out to the shower. After being in the cosy cocoon of the sauna, however, emerging into the drafty corridor felt like stepping into a blizzard naked. How do gay men cope with this temperature change? We turned on the shower and tried to kiss under its dribbly warmth. But it was on a timer. The water kept stopping. Let's go to the steam room, she suggested, not to be defeated. Well, the steam room was insanely hot, like climbing inside a kettle. There's no way I'd be able to stay in there long enough to make a woman orgasm. That takes time. We started kissing awkwardly, like kids playing spin the bottle. Then, as the steam parted, I saw a familiar face. I tried to concentrate, but thought, oh, who is that? Then I remembered, oh, yes, she's a regular at my gigs who often tweets me afterwards with not entirely welcome feedback. I imagined her judging me this time, holding up a scorecard. Hi, Rosie. Hi, I blurted, sitting upright. And we all started chatting, as women do, and then went upstairs for another cup of milky tea. Thank you. Well, I'm just going to finish off by saying to you that I am, happily in a relationship now. And when you have started a new relationship, you do kind of want to show off about it, don't you? I mean, I don't mean you sort of break into a library where they've set up a television studio and pretend to be comedian Rosie Wilby and sort of get on the microphone and tell people, oh, I'm in a relationship, everyone. No, I mean, you do something a bit more subtle, wouldn't you? Like, say, on the Sunday morning after the sex night, because sex night is Saturday night, isn't it? I'm quite traditional like that. Sometimes you even do a little bow, hello. But on the Sunday morning after the sex night, you go to the corner shop, don't you? You go to the corner shop to get a pint of milk or something. You go to the corner shop just with slightly messy bed hair, don't you? Just with slightly messy bed hair. And you think, that'll be enough. That'll be enough, won't it, for my little mate in the corner shop to think that this sex bomb has been reactivated. And you think maybe I'll bump into one of the neighbours on the way. Morning, Marjorie. Something different about me. Glowing, you say. And you think, well, maybe I'll go crazy. I won't even bother putting my bra back on because my lover's thrown it out the window. And then I remember I'm a woman in my 40s and I scoop my breasts back up off my knees. And normally on this trip to the corner shop, I wouldn't be juggling a microphone as well. But on this occasion, I have taken a small PA system with me because I slightly strained my vocal cords shouting out during the sex, because you're supposed to shout things out on. It's words of encouragement. Things like, oh, baby, that's very good. Pray continue. Because it turns out I'm quite posh during sex, you see, quite posh. My libido went missing in action for 2 years, came back talking like a Jane Austen character. Where have you been, libido? I don't know, but let's see if we can't take a turn about the grounds, get lost in the maze. I'm so posh, I've even been known to shout out, oh, crumbs. So there I am in the corner shop, buying my pint of milk, and I'm thinking, let's get some more sexy things. What else should we get? Let's get some croissant, they're French. We can roll about in the crumbs and the crisp white shoots. Let's get some champagne. We can pour over each other's naked bodies. But because it's the corner shop, the champagne's been massively marked up in price because of Brexit. It's £1 million. What about some passion fruit? Passion fruit. That'll be sexy, won't it? That'll be sexy. Yeah, that sounds sexy. Passion fruit and some oysters. We could have oysters. Yeah. They're an aphrodisiac, aren't they? I mean, it's a very well-stocked corner shop, this, you've noticed. It's in my imagination. We can have whatever we want. So there I am, getting all these things. I've got them on the counter in the corner shop. Can you hear me through this face mask? I'm saying it's topical. So there I am, getting all these things, and I'm thinking, this is all going to be enough, all this. What am I getting? A pint of milk, champagne, croissant, oysters, passion fruit. This is all going to be enough for them to know that I'm having an amazing time in bed, whereas what they actually think is that I'm having a breakdown, which is possibly also true. But look, someone over there went, yeah. Yeah, thanks for that. But I'm just going to finish off by sharing with you, because I do like to do all this research into the science, the very, very intellectual science of love and relationships. I'll share with you my tip about kissing from the joy of sex, because kissing is my favourite part of sex, because at that stage there's still hope. But in the joy of sex, it says, a good mouth-to-mouth kiss should leave its recipient breathless, but not asphyxiated. So that's my sort of safe sex and love advice for you. Thank you very much. I hope Crystal Palace...